So if autonomy and empathy are the effects of self-development, then the question is, what is self-development? What are these causes? The fundamental principle that underlies self-development is, as you think, so you become. At the physical level, we have this analogy: you are what you eat. Right? Your physical body is made up of what? All of the food that you have consumed from this point backwards to the point of your birth. What's your inner personality made up of? Experiences, yep. Thoughts, feelings, intentions, desires, etc. All of the thoughts and feelings and intentions and desires that I have been eating from this point until, right the way back, creates the inner personality that I now have. So as you think, so you become. This is the principle that underlies spiritual development, self-development, human maturity. So the problem is that we have been thinking a certain way for a long period of time, and so we get stuck there. Habits. The whole idea of self-development is to create new habits of thinking and of feeling, to recreate a new personality. It's a bit like upgrading your software. Every so often you get a notification on your iPhone, upgrade to iOS version 13.1.1. Why? Why do you upgrade your phone or your computer? What happens when you upgrade your operating system? Put it another way. What happens if you don't upgrade? It won't work. What happens to some of your apps? They don't work anymore. In order for the apps to run, they have to be in an improved environment. So too, if you want to experience higher degrees of human experience, we have to have a new operating system, a new set of thoughts and ideas and values. Give us another simple example. A young child sees her mother crying when the son comes home from college. The child looks at the mother and says, why are you crying? He's come home. Why is the mother crying? The joy, tears of joy. The young child understands tears only in the context of sadness. Immaturity. When she has a more mature perspective, then the feeling of tears of joy can operate in that environment. At that low level of psychological maturity, that feeling can't exist, it can't take hold. The app for tears of joy can't run in a child. It can run in an adult. So self-development is upgrading our operating system so that we can function with a higher degree of autonomy and empathy. It occurs through this as you think, so you become mechanism. So the whole thing then is the redirection or the remanagement of the inner self. We'll just briefly touch on what this self actually is. Okay, so this is taken from the book Governing Business and Relationships. So the top self and the word vasanas, I'm not going to touch on here. It's not entirely relevant for exactly what we're talking about. The main part I want to look at is body, mind, intellect. When we talk about the self with a lowercase s, this is what we're talking about. The personality is the body, mind, intellect all together. So self-development basically means that we are managing the sense objects, the actions, the emotions, the thoughts of the world, and the thoughts of reality. Everything that we experience is being managed. It's being redirected towards something else. Now the question is, what is that something else that it is redirected towards? The general word that we use is an ideal. But the important quality of that ideal is that it is of reduced ego in nature. So just to sort of recap, what we're saying then is that self-development or self-management means that we redirect our actions, our perceptions, our emotions, and our thoughts towards an ideal. If we are doing that, we are practicing self-development, we are practicing spirituality, we are practicing religion. If we are not doing that, we are not. So, let's have a bit of a look at the recipe then. So this idea of a recipe for self-development then, what it means is we need to understand the different components. Ideals, schedule, exercise, practices, and community. All right. So the first one we'll go through is ideals. So when it comes to working with ideals, the question that we are essentially asking is, what do I want my life to look like? And we ask this across all the domains of our experience. What do I want my material life to look like? So that refers to my possessions, my material wealth, all that kind of stuff. My cars and houses and money and investments, etc. This is my material life. What do I want that to look like? My physical life. What do I want that to look like? So my health, all of the physical experiences I have, my relationship with my spouse, for example, there's a physical dimension there. What do I want my emotional, my intellectual, my moral, and my spiritual lives to look like? What we do is to take a sheet of paper or a computer screen, if you prefer to use computers, and write this down. Categorize these 5 different domains, 6 different domains, and write down, bullet point, I want my material life to look this way, emotional, and so on and so forth. So we also ask the question with regards to the relationships. So relationships and environments. What do I want my career to look like? What do I want my physical health to look like? What do I want my family life to look like? So there's different domains of experience and there are different areas of life. So you take something like career. Career is a good example. It affects different domains of life. Which domains of life does career affect? If you look at that list.
Material, emotional, intellectual.
Every one of them.
Yeah, it could actually affect all of them. It definitely affects your material because that's how you get paid. It may affect your physical, it may not really. It may not have a big impact on your physical life. It may do if you're a labourer or if you're a person who has to stand for 8 hours a day, then it does. Does it affect your emotional life? Well, again, it might do because you have to have interactions with people. Intellectual, of course it does. Moral, okay, if I just pay this guy a bribe, I can get the contract done much quicker and much easier. Is that the right thing to do? Yeah, so it's spiritual. Can you use your workplace in your spiritual domain? So this is the idea. We look across the different domains of experience and the different areas of life and we visualize, what do I want my life to look like? Self-development is common to them all in the sense that what we create shows a reduced ego and egocentricity, reduced ego and selfishness. So this becomes something that we have to integrate into what we're looking at. It doesn't mean that we only put things in that are unselfish. I want to be rich. I want to be famous. Why? Well, just because I want it. It doesn't mean that we can't put that in. But what it does mean is that we need to find a way to orient that particular activity to diminish the selfishness. So this picture here is used as a way of sort of describing what I mean by the common thread. What do you notice about this picture? What is that point there? It's the vanishing point. Take this line here. Where does it go? Bang. Take this line. Where does it go? Bang. Take this line. Where does it go? Bang. Every line goes through that same vanishing point. Perspective drawing. So too, you have this goal, this idea. Reduced ego and selfishness. What we're looking to do is to align our goals in the different domains and environments so that every single one of them you can say, yes, when this ideal, or when these ideals are manifest, it's going through that point of reduced ego and selfishness. This is what we're looking to do. So this means that we need to spend a significant amount of time and effort crafting our ideals. First draft, go back, rewrite. Second draft, go back, rewrite. Flesh it out. Think about it more and more and more. The ideals that we have for the different domains of our life should be very clear to us and very easy to grasp. We shouldn't be thinking, I guess my ideal for my workplace is, I don't know, something. We want to be very clear on what our ideals are so that we've always got access to them. So it takes some time to think about how to get this done, but this is the basic principle. The effect of using an ideal is to lift us out of our immediate selfishness. So, take a simple example. Let's say I have concerns about climate damage. So I have as one of my ideals at the material level, I want to improve the environment. I want to help the environment. And then I need a new car. My car is getting a bit old, so I need to buy a new one. I look in the car park lot and I find a high-powered sports vehicle that gets 12 miles per gallon. And I really want it. Man, that's the car that I want. It's my immediate egocentric demand that wants it for whatever reason. What happens if I remind myself of my material ideal of improving the quality of my environment? What happens now within me?
Your need decreases.
Your need decreases, exactly. It acts like a balance. Now, to some degree, it'll say, yeah, I do really want the 12 miles per gallon gas guzzler, but I really, if I'm serious, if I'm honest with myself, I do want to help the environment. So maybe I should think about something that is more fuel efficient. You're not forcing yourself. You're not suppressing yourself. You are naturally just bringing back some balance into the conversation that you're having with yourself. So this is why, again, we say that we must spend some time crafting those ideals, because if we don't, then we force ourselves. And I buy myself a Prius and I'm dissatisfied the whole time. I hate my car, I hate driving, and I feel frustrated. I've suppressed myself. This is not how to live. If I want to lift myself out of that selfishness, I use an ideal that I do appreciate. My intellect understands, yes, this is a good thing. My mind also feels, yes, I love my nature. I love my natural environment. I love my world. I want to improve it. And so by choosing a more fuel efficient vehicle, I'm advancing that goal. This is how we are using our ideals. We're using our ideals to give us that lift out of my current way of thinking and occupying a higher way of thinking. This series of talks is called Lift Yourself by Yourself. This is how we do it. We lift our thinking towards something that is less egocentric. We grow into that. Over time, what happens is that we grow into that ideal. Okay, I'll give you an example that someone gave me. So this is a friend of mine who was living and studying at the Vedanta Academy, where I was also studying. And he said, so there was at the end of every corridor in the hostels, there's a ironing board and an iron for ironing the uniforms. And he was saying that, when I finished ironing, I always I've started now making sure that I fill the iron up when I've finished, so that the person who comes next, it's ready for them to go. Just a very small thing that he's doing to think in terms of other people. It was a conscious effort. In fact, he was telling me once, he walked away, got to the dining hall, and suddenly realised, oh, I didn't fill up the iron. And he wrestled with himself for 30 seconds, and guess what he did? He walked back to the hospital because that thought was there. No, I want to fill it up for the next person. Right? So this was his ideal. Now that's not the interesting part. The interesting part was when he was talking about, he suddenly realised one day that he was filling up the iron and there was no thought of, I want to serve the next person. Is it a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a good thing.
It's a good thing. He had grown into that naturally. It became natural for him. He finished the iron, you fill it up for the next person. That's it. You don't make a big deal out of it. Earlier on, he was making a big deal out of it. I'm going to fill the iron up for the next person. Like, he grew into that ideal, and that became a new baseline for him. This is what we are trying to achieve. We're trying to bring our baseline up. Bring it up. Bring it up each time. As you think, so you become. So then the unselfishness, the empathy becomes a natural expression for us, rather than something we have to push. And so what we do then, we throw the ideal higher again. That brings us up to the next baseline. So that's the notion of the ideals and how they work.